So let me get up this first one here. If you guys are not aware of what's going on with Hershey's right now, then I'm here to fill that gap. And I'll tell you what's going on with Hershey's is hilarious. It's really, really funny. So essentially what happened was this. The company Hershey's, they brought on somebody who is biologically a male, now identifies as a female, and they're using it as a female kind of icon for the company. So it says this: the chocolate's out of the wrapper. The New York Post being very funny, as they believe themselves to be. Johnstone 24 gushed. Honored to be featured in this campaign by Hershey's Canada, shocker, Canada, for International Women's Day. International Women's Day, we have a biological male being the woman that Hershey's chooses to use. So we've got this picture of him, her, there, whatever, and then it shows this new chocolate part. It says her, she. So they're being very clever, and I got to give it to them. It's, as far as play on words go, it is very clever. The company is Hershey's. They're doing this National Women's Day or International Women's Day as her, she, using the pronouns, being real cute with it. And it is a good play on words. So it says, it also means a lot to be included as a young-ish trans woman. She added in a follow-up tweet, I grew up with few trans role models. Many young trans folk have not met a trans adult. I hope this campaign shows trans girls that they can dream big and change the world too. So for International Women's Day, we are now literally using men to celebrate this, which as a man, I'm offended by this. So I can only imagine how women actually feel. Needless to say, Johnstone's inclusion prompted digital torches and pitchforks, with Twitter critics calling the ad an insult to real women. Hershey's is honoring women by featuring delusional, disfigured men on its candy bars. Feel empowered yet, ladies? Scoffed Federalist CEO Sean Davis. In Shakespeare's day, women weren't allowed on stage and were played by men, argued teacher Carrie Keelyman. Are we going back to that? How is this progress? I want to read that again. In Shakespeare's day, women were not allowed on stage and were played by men. And now we are in a day and age where women, again, are being played by men. I find that incredibly insulting. So I could only imagine how women are actually feeling. But as usual, the Daily Wire did what the Daily Wire does, and they are trying to capitalize on this. And I don't mean that in a derogatory, negative way. I mean what they did with Harry's Razors, with Jeremy's Razors, IHateHarrys.com. Harry's, if you don't know about what happened with that, Harry's Razors is a very famous, prominent razor company who sells the actual device and then the tool, and then also sells replacement blades for it. And I was actually a consumer of that product. And then what Daily Wire did, because Harry's went woke, is Daily Wire made IHateHarrys.com, Jeremy's Razors. Jeremy is the CEO of the Daily Wire. And then they produced Jeremy's Razors as a response. And now I am a consumer of that product because I would much rather my money go towards Jeremy and the Daily Wire and what they're doing to fight the culture war than I would have my money go towards Harry's, who is a woke company. So they did the same thing with this chocolate thing, and it's truly hilarious. So this is the ad that they put out for it.
International Women's Day is upon us again, and I love an international woman. But our friends over at Hershey's, they don't even know what a woman is. They've hired a biological male to be the spokesperson for their Women's Day campaign. And they're calling that campaign, and I swear I'm not making this up, her, she. Her, she. It's humiliating. And it's the reason that I'm launching Jeremy's Chocolate. We have two kinds. She, her, and he, him. One of them's got nuts. If you need me to tell you which one it is, keep giving your money to Hershey's.
Knowles.
But if you're tired of giving your money to woke corporations that hate you, and you're looking for a delicious chocolate bar from a company that actually wants your business, head over to IHateHershey's.com and order Jeremy's Chocolate today.
So very cute, right? Very cute.
International
what the Daily
Women's
Wire
Day.
is doing, what they do in response to companies going woke, they put out their own product and give you a company that you can be more comfortable putting your money into. Love it. You got to love it. Okay, next one here is horrific moment, man casually loads his gun and executes homeless man on St. Louis sidewalk with bullet to the back of the head. Suspect 23 is charged with murder. Now, if you guys have not seen this, this is truly graphic. I don't know if they actually have the video here. It's very easy to find. But essentially what happened is you can see a video somebody took. It was about 90 seconds long, and the person filming is kind of talking about what's happening as it's happening, and a man in the street next to a homeless man sitting on the curb is literally taking 90 seconds to load a handgun and then shoots the homeless guy. The entire time the man filming, and it sounds like there's at least one other person there, they do absolutely nothing about it. So they're watching someone load a firearm in a very slow, troublesome manner because he obviously has no idea what he's doing. And then they watch him shoot this guy right in front of them. So video shows the man loading his gun and firing one shot at the man's head. Bystanders from a nearby Globe office building filmed the incident. Outraged residents say it's time city leaders get a handle on escalating crime. Harrowing footage shared online shows Deshaun Thomas, the shooter, standing behind David Saldana, the homeless victim, as he sits on the sidewalk with his hands covering his ears. And you can see that in the photo right here. This is the shooter when he's actually about to pull the trigger, and that is a man kind of covering ears. You don't know if this homeless man has mental disorder of some kind, if he's schizophrenic. I'm not sure. But the gunman callously loaded his gun, then fired one shot at the homeless man's head before fleeing from the scene. Now, here is the video right here. It says graphic warning.
It sounded like I said that was a gunshot.
So you can see he's struggling to load the firearm. He's having some kind of issue actually getting the ammunition into the gun. Struggling. He looks around a little bit, taking his sweet time.
Yeah, hit. There it goes.
Reaches into his pocket. Still, the gun is not loaded yet. It looks like maybe he's loading rounds.
No, he just put a magazine in it. He's still trying to load it.
And you can hear this guy taking the video. He understands what's happening.
Oh my God.
And then there you go. Shot.
He just killed him, dude.
So these people just watch and do absolutely nothing about it. And if this is not a testament to our culture, and that people are glad to sit by with a cell phone in their hand recording, watching crimes literally take place and doing nothing about it, and then acting shocked when the guy pulls the trigger. You watched him load the firearm. It took him an insane amount of time to get that gun loaded. What part of you did not think he was going to shoot him? And what part of you did not have this instinct to want to help somebody, to want to stop a crime, to walk out of the building, not be a pansy-ass man, and sit there and record it, go out there and confront the guy? Like, I don't know, man, but I feel like 15 years ago, this wouldn't have been a question. Somebody would have just done something about it. And now instead of doing something about it, people just sit there and watch. I don't know if you guys saw, but it was about six to 8 months ago. I mean, maybe a year ago in Philadelphia, a woman was literally raped on a train that was full of people. And all people did was record it with their cell phone. Our culture is disgusting. Disgusting. I don't care what the ramification is. If you are witnessing a woman be sexually assaulted as a man and you do nothing about it, you are a bitch in my eyes. And excuse the language, I don't normally swear in my videos because I know some kids watch them. But I apologize for that. But they, as far as men go, you are worthless as a man if you are going to watch a woman get physically assaulted and record it instead. You are trash. Absolute trash. All right, next one here. You got Zelensky. The U.S. will have to send its sons and daughters to fight in Ukraine if aid wavers. So he's saying if the U.S. discontinues its aid to the Ukraine, then U.S. sons and daughters will then become a part of this war as Russia continues the fight. That's essentially what he's saying.
President Zelensky hasn't stopped his demands for more aid in Ukraine's fight with Russia. Speaking at a press conference on February 24th, he issued a stark warning to the U.S. if it fails to provide more assistance. Let's watch.
If it happens so that Ukraine, due to various opinions and weakening and depleting of assistance, loses, Russia is going to enter Baltic states, NATO member states, and then the U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing.
Meanwhile, Pentagon officials went.
So pretty point blank. It just seems kind of like an inappropriate thing to say. It's a little bit concerning, if nothing else, but I don't know. I don't want to get too political. I don't know how you guys feel about the war in Ukraine. I don't know how you feel about us providing funding consistently, constantly, more funding to Ukraine already than I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, so don't quote me, but I believe than we used in Afghanistan over the entire war. I believe we've already supplied more funding to Ukraine so far in a year than we did to Afghanistan the entire war. And again, I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure that's what I was reading about. Okay, next one here. I took my son, this is Joe Fascio on Twitter, said I took my son on a recruitment visit to UC Berkeley football and saw this after we got lunch. Now check this out. Guy throws a bike at him. So you can tell people are trying to help, which is good, right? Very good. But just kind of wild. The guy who threw the bike, now there were a lot of theories in the comments about why the guy threw the bike at him. I tend to be on the side of maybe he was trying to knock him down so that they could try to extinguish the fire that was engulfing his body. There was a second video that showed him from a different angle. Now, I don't know how he got to that place. I don't know if he did that himself, in some kind of protest. I don't know if somebody did that to him. I don't have any context for this. I just thought it was really wild to watch. And at least in this scenario, you have a handful of people who see something bad happening, and they have something inside of them that says, I need to try to stop this. I need to try to help him. So they're all trying to hit him with jackets, trying to put the fire out. What they need to do is completely cover him, not just whip jackets at him, because you're kind of just flaming the fire. But at least people are well-intentioned in trying to do something positive, trying to do something for the person who is suffering, right? So it's a positive thing. Next one here. Women continuing, I'm so sorry. Men pretending to be women, continuing to justify entering women's spaces and belittling and gaslighting women in the process. So check this one out.
Listen up, buckaroos. Women do have their own spaces, and their spaces are with trans women. And if you don't like that, then you're the one who's not the real woman. And we all know where you shouldn't be, and that's in space with other women because you are a danger. Goodbye.
So what does he say? He's saying that any women who feel unsafe or uncomfortable with men pretending to be women in their spaces, think bathrooms, locker rooms, things like that. Any women who are not comfortable with those men, trans women, men, in those safe spaces, then the real women are unsafe and should not be allowed in those safe spaces. The level of delusion, the level of just illogical thinking, inconsistent thinking has literally become unimaginable. It's become unfathomable. It's really hard to try to make sense of it. And everything seems like a damn joke now. Like it seems like this is satire, but it's not. He's dead serious. She is dead serious. Women If you don't feel like you are being shoved out of your place in both workplaces, on boards for women, bathrooms, locker rooms, if you don't feel that, then you are just not aware of what's happening. This trans community is, one, pushing gays out of their space in that community, and two, is reappropriating what it means to be a woman, and we're having men now tell us what a woman is. And at the same time, ironically, they literally cannot answer that question, what is a woman? Matt Walsh's documentary did a phenomenal job of proving that. They can't or refuse to answer the question because they know it's logically inconsistent. It's wild. Here's the next one. If you were unaware, since basically COVID started, most people had been under the belief that this was a leak from the Wuhan lab, and that is a lab in China. So it says Wuhan lab leak is now the most likely origin of COVID because Beijing tried to cover it up, and it is reasonable to believe the virus was engineered in China, Harvard scientists tell MP. The Wuhan lab leak is now the most likely origin of the coronavirus. Science Technology Select Committee that it is reasonable to believe that COVID was genetically engineered in China. She also said that the Chinese Communist Party's cover-up of the initial outbreak in Wuhan 2 years ago and the attempts to sabotage the World Health Organization's inquiry into the origins of the pandemic made the lab leak theory likely. Now, again, I feel like most of us already knew this. I definitely, that was where my head was already there for years now, because it made the most logical sense that this was the origin of the coronavirus, right? And now we have the FBI coming out and admitting that this is most likely. But what I want you guys to consider, without getting too political, is why now? Why would this come up now? We've had Chinese spy balloons. We have this idea that China and Russia are going to essentially team up in World War III, right, against NATO. So why now, politically and strategically, would it make sense for the U.S. to now say, oh, by the way, United States citizens, COVID, you know, that thing that ruined your lives, even though it was really us and the way we reacted to COVID that ruined your life, but COVID that ruined your life, China did that. China's fault, point the finger. Well, politically, it makes perfect sense why right now they would try to kind of stir up some hate towards China, right? So again, I don't want to get too political because that's not what I do, but I just want you to kind of consider the big picture and why timing-wise this Wuhan lab confirmation story and what the FBI is now admitting about it kind of makes sense. Next one. Fears over measles super spreader event at Kentucky Religious Festival where up to 20,000 may have been exposed to unvaxxed attendee. The Asbury Revival, and if you don't know what that is, do some Googling. The Asbury Revival is awesome. Was a prayer event with attendees from all around the world. One unvaccinated attendee tested positive for measles after attending. Officials have issued a health warning over a potential measles super spreader event at the religious ceremony in Kentucky. The CDC and state health chiefs revealed that an unvaccinated attendee tested positive for measles days after the event last month and was likely infectious at the time of the festival. They are now warning all unvaccinated attendees or anyone who develops symptoms to quarantine for up to 21 days and contact their doctor. Large numbers of people that attended the gathering from across Kentucky and from other states and countries may have been exposed, the CDC told the Daily Mail. Now, this is where it was, Asbury University in Wilmore, Kentucky. This is a short little video of the event. It's essentially, my understanding is that it's a 24-hour plus long prayer event. That's pretty average for a revival event of its kind. So the infected person who has not been identified attended a 24-hour, there you go, prayer event at Asbury University in Wilmore on February 18th. The Christian Asbury Revival event gained viral attention, ironic, on social media platforms such as Instagram and TikTok, with some videos earning hundreds of thousands of views. Social media videos show a packed event, with some even worshiping outside as the inner area of the church became full. The CDC spokesperson added an estimated 20,000 people attended the gathering on that day that the patient attended. Measles is one of the most contagious viruses known to man. Each infected person can pass it up to 18 others. The highly effective vaccines, which first emerged in 1963, have largely subsided the viruses spread through the developed world, but the disease is highly preventable with a 97% efficacy against measles. This outbreak could be tied to COVID-19 lockdowns and other pandemic measures that disrupted medical treatment for the past 2 years, saying that maybe some people did not get the vaccine. Number of measles cases reported by year. Kind of interesting here. You got 2010, 63, 2011, 220, 2012, 55, 2013, 187, 2014, 667. So big spike there. And then a dip back down until 2018, where there's a bit of a jump. And then 2019, a huge spike at 1,274. And then 2020 dropped to basically 0. And then has been very, very low and slow ever since. But again, just kind of interesting to see that the Asbury revival got hit. All right, moving on to the next. We're almost done here. Scientists urge pregnant women to avoid using plastic bottles after study finds microplastics can end up in the organs of the fetus. Experts have recommended drinking out of glass or metal bottles due to growing fears that tiny plastic particles may wreak havoc on our health. Dr. Luisa Campagnolo, I'm so sorry, that's a heck of a last name, an expert in histology and embryology at the University of Rome, warned there is mounting evidence that micro and nanoplastics are ending up in human tissue. Previous studies have shown microscopic particles, a byproduct of the degradation of plastic, can end up in the human bloodstream and even the placenta. So really big picture here, guys. If you don't already know, drinking out of plastic, eating out of plastic, microwaving and then eating out of plastic, or just storing things in plastic for an extended period of time and then eating them or drinking them, tiny particles of plastic become loose. They enter whatever the contents is, and then you're ingesting those. And it's essentially been proven now that these microplastics, they do wreak havoc on the human body. It can affect hormones heavily. And now they're saying that it gets into the fetus of pregnant women and then has an adverse effect in them as well. So my big picture here, the big thing to think about, my household uses plastic very little. We're big on glass. We all drink out of aluminum or glass bottles, only use glass cups. We're trying to slowly phase out all of the plastic Tupperware that we have and replace it with glass, because we are in tune with all of this. So I would just give you a warning. If you don't know about this, do some research about it. But plastic is no good. Plastic really is no good for anything that it has to do with ingestion. So if you didn't know, now you know. And now last one, and this is the fun one. Police in Peru seize an 800-year-old mummified human from a former delivery man who claimed it was his girlfriend and even slept with it in his bed. Police discovered mummy at the Montero viewpoint in the Peruvian city of Puno. The body was found wrapped in bandages in the fetal position inside a cool bag. Some of the world's oldest mummies have been found in South America. Super, super interesting. Police in Peru have seized a mummy human being between 600 and 800 years old from a portable cool bag of a man who claimed it was his girlfriend. Julio Cesar Bermejo, 26, a former food delivery man, claimed to have had the mummy in his home for 3 decades and even slept with it in his bed. At home, she's in my room. She sleeps with me. I take care of her, he said in a video that went viral on social media. Bermejo was approached by police at the Montero viewpoint in the Peruvian city of Puno known for its important archaeological significance. Wild, man. Although mummification is synonymous with Egypt, some of the world's oldest mummies date back to 7,000 years to South America. Here's a little video of what they found. There's like a cooler bag right there. And then in the fetal position, a mummified human being. Wild. Look at these pictures. That's wild. Bermejo will remain in detention while investigators look into the case. A government official told AFP on Tuesday. Local resident John, commented, "In which a virtual store do you buy these things?" While Gabriela joked, "My mummy order hasn't arrived. What should I do next?" Another Juan Carlos said, "So he can't take his mummy out for a walk anymore?" Bermejo told local media that the mummy, who he called Juanita and referred to as she, was like my spiritual girlfriend, even though the remains once belonged to a man, according to authorities. So it was actually a man. According to the former delivery man, his father brought the mummy home 30 or 40 years ago after plans to donate it to a museum failed. His family bought it for 2,000 Peruvian sol. He said at the time, a lot of money. According to Peru's Ministry of Culture, the pre-Hispanic relic was a mummified adult male individual. It was presumably from the eastern area of Puno, a region in the Peruvian Andes, some 1,300 kilometers, 800-ish miles southeast of Lima. So there's another picture of it. Wild, man, wild. That's so crazy. That's where the town Puno is. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy. So that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. I think depending on how this does and, feedback from you guys, I'll do this once a week, over the weekend or every Friday night or something like that. If you guys would prefer that I do it live, then let me know and we'll get that sorted out. Otherwise, I'll just record it. I'll throw it up. But there's your news wrap up for the week. I love you. Have a fantastic week.